couldn't be more excited to present this award today to Judge Cohen. And I can certainly think of no one who deserves this award more than she, my mentor and friend. I'm particularly honored to introduce her today, as I was fortunate to serve as her attorney advisor in 1984 and 1985. I'll never forget the first day I entered the court for my new job, and I pinched myself. I couldn't believe I was there to work with Judge Cohen. And I must have had a good feeling about it because all of these years later, she has continued to be an important and influential part of my professional life and a one in a million friend. Judge Cohen has spent a professional lifetime leading by example and mentoring young tax lawyers who aspire to successful legal careers. Many of you are in our audience today. Judge Cohen was born in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and she attended public schools in Los Angeles. Following graduation from high school, she attended UCLA. She was employed part-time and graduated with a BS degree in accounting. She was actually the first member of her immediate family to attend college. Following graduation from UCLA, Judge Cohen entered the USC School of Law. She paid for her law school education with scholarships, loans, and funds from part-time jobs. When she entered USC, less than 5% of her class was female. In that era, the women in her class experienced such customs known as Ladies' Day, a day when the law school professors would call on the ladies in their classes. Some of the professors made it a practice of calling on every woman in the class during each class in an attempt to intimidate or embarrass them. In fact, one young professor told Judge Cohen of his impression that a woman had to have some sort of psychological disorder to even want to go to law school. Despite all of these challenges, Judge Cohen was selected for the Southern California Law Review, where she served as a staff member and then as topics editor. Although she was one of the top students in her class, and like other top students, interviewed at the major Los Angeles law firms, she was told that firms were reluctant to hire women because, one, clients would resist or refuse to be represented by women lawyers. Two, the firm did not want to invest in training a woman who was likely to leave the firm in order to marry and raise a family. And three, it was very doubtful that a woman could even assimilate or fit in with the firm culture. I do believe, however, that several of the large firms did offer her a position as a legal secretary. Judge Cohen was eventually hired by a sole practitioner, Lee Abbott, a very well-respected tax lawyer who was also skeptical about women lawyers. But he had not been able to recruit a male associate who had Judge Cohen's record of achievement, because comparably qualified male associates were hired by all of the big firms. Mr. Abbott quickly realized how talented Judge Cohen was. He gave her ever-increasing responsibility, and 2 years after he hired her, he made her a shareholder in the firm, which was renamed Abbott & Cohen in 1979. In 1981, Judge Cohen was listed in the National Law Journal as one of the top tax attorneys in the country, based on an informal survey of tax attorneys across the United States. Judge Cohen was appointed to the tax court by President Reagan in 1982, a time when the tax court had over 59,000 cases in inventory. She quickly became known as one of the most hardworking, efficient, and productive judges during this big backlog of cases, and was instrumental in eliminating that backlog. During her 25 years on the court, Judge Cohen has authored more than 800 decisions, many of which have established important precedent in the tax law. She was elected by her colleagues twice as the court's chief judge, being the first and only woman to date to hold this position. She's also chaired many court committees and task forces, and has been a leader in the training and mentoring of judges and other professionals on the court throughout her judicial career. Judge Cohen's expertise, her contributions to the field of tax law, and her leadership have been recognized repeatedly by individuals, bar associations, and legal organizations. She received the Dana Latham Memorial Award from the LA County Bar Association Taxation Section for her contributions to the legal profession in the field of tax in 1997. The Jules Ritzold Memorial Award from the ABA Tax Section Committee on Civil and Criminal Tax Penalties in 1999, and the Bruce I. Hoffman Award from the UCLA Extension Tax Controversy Institute in 2007. Judge Cohen has been featured in many articles, and her speeches have been published in several law journals and law reviews. A frequent speaker at National Tax Institutes and Bar Association meetings, Judge Cohen has educated thousands of lawyers about the application and interpretation of the tax law and about the process of litigating tax cases. She has constantly reminded those who read and interpret tax cases to remember that the tax court, like other trial courts, must decide cases on the evidence introduced by the parties at trial, and that tax law is not an arcane area of the law divorced from the realities of taxpayers' lives. Rather, tax law is about real people, individuals and entities whose cases depend upon the facts and involve the application of law to those facts in a fair and impartial way. Notwithstanding all of her professional achievements, Judge Cohen, too, remains a real person, a warm and loyal friend to many, with broad outside interests, a loving family, and, most importantly, a great sense of humor. So I'm so pleased to present this award to Judge Cohen today.
Thank you all. As Mr. Pace demonstrated, at a time like this, you think, I must have done something right. And one of the things I did right was choose attorney advisors. So I'm very grateful to Kathy and to all the other people. And I will say that this is the second thing that happened to me this year in recognition of my seniority. And this is a whole lot better than getting my Medicare card. In addition to being honored and having learned a lot from my law clerks, I'm very grateful to a wonderful family that I have. I have 3 generations of cousins here this afternoon, and I won't introduce each of them by name, but I will say that those who were old enough came back to Washington, D.C. when I was sworn in, and I'm very thankful to the taxation section that they didn't have to go so far this time. And the other thing I would say, I've learned a lot from other tax court judges, and Judge Rahm, who served on the tax court for almost 50 years, surprised us once when, for his 80th birthday, we had to use him as a substitute banquet speaker because Sandra Day O'Connor had to go in for surgery. And when Judge Rahm stood up, he said, well, I have some advice for all of you about public speaking. And we held our breath because Judge Rahm had advice about everything. And he said, and this is something else I learned, he said the way to be seen is to speak up, to stand up. The way to be heard is to speak up. And the way to be appreciated is to sit down. So I'm going to do that because the first thing I learned as a lawyer was that I had to learn to speak up, because Lee Abbott was a litigator, and I thought I was going to be a tax lawyer in the back room, and I had to go to court. And I was more afraid of him than I was of any judge. So I learned to speak up, and then the first thing I had to do as a judge was learn to shut up and listen. So I'm going to do that because I've been waiting since 8 o'clock this morning to hear what Mr. Korb has to say.